You're gonna need an ocean of calamine lotion. Summer, it's gonna be here in a matter of seconds, and chances are you might develop or encounter a variety of skin issues for which people are gonna be like, oh, just use calamine lotion. Slap a little calamine lotion on that. Summer skin problems tend to be those of the ilk that calamine lotion is suggested as the ultimate remedy. What exactly is calamine lotion? What is it used for? How do you use it? What are the downsides of using calamine lotion? We're gonna do a deep dive into this summer skincare first aid staple. Calamine lotion is a shaker lotion. It's a suspension of zinc oxide, calamine mineral, which is zinc, as well as glycerin, water, calcium hydroxide, and bentonite clay. There are many benefits to using calamine lotion for the skin. It's very soothing. It also helps to dry out the skin. So any kind of skin rash that is oozy, weepy, calamine lotion might be a suggested remedy. Calamine lotion also has a cooling effect because as the water in calamine lotion evaporates off the surface of the skin, evaporative water losses help to draw heat away, cool the body. It also has astringent properties, anti-itch properties, and antimicrobial properties. Plus it creates this kind of protective barrier on the skin surface. One of the advantages of just plain calamine lotion is that it can be applied to a large surface area. Calamine lotion has been used for a very long time. It's safe to use in pregnancy, breastfeeding, in children, and in infants. Although with the caveat that you have to be really careful and check the ingredients, because what I'm talking about here is bland calamine lotion. But another perk, I suppose, of calamine lotion is that there are other formulations out there that add certain ingredients like benzocaine, pramoxane, menthol, camphor. For example, who has ever heard of Caladryl? Caladryl is basically calamine lotion with pramoxine, a topical anesthetic, and camphor, which can have a soothing effect. But you have to be careful. These are not something that you would necessarily want to use in an infant. Always clarify with your child's pediatrician if it is safe for you, because basically there are calamine lotion versions out there that have other ingredients. But bland calamine lotion is very safe. What might it be used for? Well, you'll often hear people, as the song sings, recommend it for those poison ivy, poison oak rashes because they are super itchy and they tend to ooze and weep. Oh, it's very, very uncomfortable. The drying properties of calamine lotion are desirable to dry up that fluid, and it has the anti-itch effect, plus it's cooling, so that cooling sensation helps to calm the poison ivy discomfort quite a bit. Many people also suggest calamine lotion for a condition known as miliaria, which is fancy medical speak for, you guessed it, heat rash. Now I have a video doing a deep dive on heat rash. There's actually different variants of heat rash. It is a condition due to blockage of the sweat glands. You get these little itchy bumps, common in the summer months, especially if you wear clothing that doesn't allow for good circulation of air over the surface of the skin. The sweat glands become plugged up. You get this very itchy little bumpy rash. But because of the cooling effect of a calamine drying lotion, it actually can be quite soothing. One of my personal favorite uses for calamine lotion, because I deal with this off and on, is for that itchy hand rash commonly referred to as pompholyx or dyshidrotic hand eczema. This is so insufferable to cope with, and I already know a lot of you guys deal with this because of my videos on dyshidrotic hand eczema with all my tips and tricks. Because of the drying effect, it helps to kind of suck out that fluid that is bubbling up to the surface in those little water blisters that form on the sides of your fingers. Plus it helps calm down the itch quite a bit. So it can be really helpful for dyshidrotic hand eczema, which, as a side note, oftentimes for many people tends to get worse in the summer months because it is triggered by sweat. The heat, the humidity, the sweat, sweaty palms will bring out those little annoying itchy water blisters, and boy, is that ever miserable. Speaking of summer skin issues, bug bites. Bug bites, bug bites. Itchy, oozy, all you want to do is scratch, scratch, scratch. But as you guys already know from my videos on bug bites and itch, anytime you scratch something, it feels really good, but it creates a worse situation for you. It leads to the release of little itch signals that sort of potentiate the problem, make that itch more stubborn to heal, to go away. Not to mention, when you scratch, you can introduce bacteria into that bug bite or area of impaired skin. You can develop what's called impetigo, a bacterial skin skin infection on top of that. Not fun. So calamine lotion, it kind of draws out some of that inflammatory exudate out of the bug bite, shrinking it, flattening it. Plus it creates a little bit of a film on the surface and soothes the itch. A lot of people will turn to calamine lotion for a sunburn because of the soothing and cooling properties, provide some symptomatic relief. However, it's not necessarily my favorite option for a sunburn because you do end up with an impaired skin barrier, and it might be a better option to apply just a lightweight hydrating lotion. Calamine lotion is not the least bit hydrating, so it's a matter of personal preference, but if you find that that provides you some comfort, some symptomatic relief. We talked about dyshydrotic hand eczema. Dyshidrosis can also happen on the feet. As a reminder, you get those little itchy blisters, but there is a dyshidrosis mimicker on the feet. I mean, it mimics a lot of things, and that is athlete's foot. Tinea pedis, a fungal infection of the feet between the toes. I mean, it's super itchy. Calamine lotion can actually be very helpful there. It's not going to get rid of the fungus. You still need to have the fungal infection properly treated. However, it will offer symptomatic relief against that itch, dry up some of that weepy, oozy fluid that is just quite miserable. Also helps absorb some sweat from the surface of the skin, which ultimately is going to help your cause out as well, because trapping of sweat on the skin, it's irritating, it macerates the skin. It just allows for a more favorable environment for that fungus to thrive and jive and wreak havoc on your feet. Now, something that children don't get as much anymore thanks to vaccination, but I had it as a child. Let me know in the comments if you had it, and that is the rash of chickenpox. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I remember this being quite itchy, although I like to brush my shoulders off as an atopic because it really didn't faze me as a kid, the itch, because I was already so used to dealing with the itch of atopic dermatitis that chickenpox for me was just like another day in the life, and the only difference was I got to stay home from school. So chickenpox, very itchy. You don't want to scratch them. They can scar. Also though, those of us who have had chickenpox, we can have that little virus wake back up in our body and get a uncomfortable rash on one side of the body. Different areas can be affected. It's called shingles. Now I have a video all about shingles, give you a lot of tips and tricks in there. We talk at length about it, what to know, what to avoid. So watch that, because shingles, it is nothing to mingle with. But the discomfort of shingles rearing its head can be alleviated with a little calamine lotion. What are the downsides of using calamine lotion? It has downsides for sure. It's a drying lotion, so with that means it can dry your skin out quite a bit. The annoying thing about calamine lotion is while it seems like on the surface a great option for a lot of issues that crop up in the skin folds, like under the breasts, for example, you can have weepy, oozy rashes related to candida yeast, boils. The problem with calamine lotion in the skin folds, like under the arms, under the breast, and the abdominal folds, it's not to say you can't use it there, but unfortunately it often gets this like very gritty texture to it in those areas and ends up being quite abrasive, which ultimately can aggravate your cause for sure. Also, calamine lotion doesn't work out well for everyone. Some people find it very irritating and it just ends up jeopardizing the healing process for you. Then there's the pink color. It's not something that most people want to be sporting during the day. And what happens too that you need to be mindful of when you use it is that as the water evaporates and it's cool, the powdery residue left behind, it has that drying effect, but sometimes the powder itself clumps together and, like I said, can be abrasive. So you need to be careful if you use it and then choose to apply it again throughout the day, because you can use this multiple times a day, and we'll get into how to use it in a moment. But you want to make sure that you take like a damp cloth and cleanse the skin of that older residue, because what can happen is you go on and you put a fresh coat, if you will, calamine lotion on top of the old dried up calamine lotion. Well, as you're rubbing it in, it can be very abrasive, that old powdery residue behind. So that's something to keep mindful of. And then one of the things that can happen too with calamine lotion, it's called a shake lotion. The powder can settle out quite a bit in the bottle and create this sediment at the bottom, which is fine for the most part. You know, you just shake it before use and it goes back into the suspension just fine. But over time, it can form this kind of cakey clump down at the bottom of the bottle, which seemingly never goes back in. A well-formulated calamine lotion, that's not an issue, but it might be something that you encounter, especially if your calamine lotion has been in that first aid kit for the past decade. It's time to get a new one. Calamine lotion, fortunately, is very inexpensive. You can get it for a couple of bucks. Now, how do you use calamine lotion properly? What's the right right way to use calamine lotion. Kind of depends on what it is you're dealing with, but you want to make sure the skin is clean, doesn't have any dirt or residue, because it will create a film on the surface. You don't want it to create a film over irritating dirt residue. So go ahead and clean the area first with a damp cloth, a little dilute soapy water, pat dry the skin, and apply the calamine lotion directly to the area of concern. If you have a bug bite, you can just apply the calamine lotion with a cotton ball or a Q-tip. Just paint it on that bug bite. You don't need to necessarily spread it all over a wide area. The nice thing about calamine lotion is you can reapply it throughout the day for symptomatic relief. Now, what are some things to keep in mind with calamine lotion? It's meant for symptomatic relief. It doesn't cure these problems. But here's one thing to also be mindful of. What if you're someone who doesn't get along well with calamine lotion? You find it irritating, but you're worried that you might end up getting poison ivy. You want something else in your first aid kit that does what calamine lotion does, but not gonna perhaps irritate you, although anything could irritate the skin. I suggest as an alternative to calamine lotion, what I personally prefer and find myself recommending a lot more, is a product called Domburose. Domburose is aluminum acetate powder that you reconstitute in tap water, and you can apply to areas where you have itchy, oozy rashes, either with a washcloth, or you can do like a soak. Really helpful, as a matter of fact, for athlete's foot, dyshydrotic hand or foot eczemas. Great alternative, excellent for poison ivy, and I find myself recommending that a lot more. It doesn't leave that chalky residue on the skin. It's drying. It does what it's supposed to do as far as a drying solution, but overall it's a lot less drying. Now, here's something that I need to talk about, because I think this is one of the reasons why a lot more people these days are searching out calamine lotion. Is a lot of people on social media are singing the praises of using calamine lotion on the face as a makeup primer. They swear it's the best thing as a makeup primer. And I can totally see how that would be the case, because it is a drying lotion, so it helps you dry up oily residues on the skin surface. For people with oily skin, this is definitely going to help your makeup stay on, go on a little bit better, because excess sebum on the skin surface, it does lead to, depending on the makeup that you're using and the technique and all those kinds of things, it can break up that makeup residue and lead to clumpy islands of makeup floating all over your face. So that makes sense. However, calamine lotion can be particularly drying to the entire face. It's not really intended to be used that way, although like I said, you can use it to a large surface area. So it's just something like, yeah, I can see how that works, but it's not something I would recommend. I would instead recommend choosing a makeup primer that is formulated to be used on the face with more moisturizing ingredients. Remember, if you have oily skin, oiliness does not equal moisturized, and moisturizer does not create sebum, does not create oil. So don't get that twisted. So I instead suggest like a silicone-based makeup primer. All right, y'all, that's what I wanted to say with regards to calamine lotion. It's a great over-the-counter remedy for itchy, oozy, weepy rashes, skin discomfort. Always read the ingredients first, especially if you're using to a large surface area, to young children. But plain, bland calamine lotion, super safe, has been used for a long time. All right, y'all, I hope this was informative. With summer coming up, I've noticed a lot of people are searching out information on how to heal a sunburn. I've got that kind of content here. If you've got a sunburn, check out my video on how to get rid of a sunburn. If you don't want to get sunburned and you say, hey, I use sunscreen and I still get burnt, check out my video on how to prevent sunburn, because there are a lot of little things that you might be doing that are making you at greater risk for a painful, miserable sunburn. So check some of those videos out. I'll link them down below in the description box. But if you like this one, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, and as always, don't forget, sunscreen and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.